Oh, the lighting. It's always going to be about the lighting. Well, for tonight, this is as good as it's going to get because it's just a big shadow right there. But, hi. Okay, so we're good. Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Sacheen. Welcome to, hang on just a minute here. Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Sacheen, and welcome to the first. It's been a while since I've done a podcast or even a live stream. But welcome to the first episode of Life Unlocked. Dr. Sacheen, if you don't know me, you haven't followed me yet, or you're new to my channel, I talk about life after 40 and what it's like to get into the next best chapter of your life. And I took a hiatus from doing videos. If you're on this channel, you know there are a lot of videos on my YouTube channel. If you're listening to the replay, um, on Facebook or Instagram and you're getting the audio, definitely go over and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate it. But in there's a ton of content about the various things that happen as you get into that next best chapter of life, right? As you get into it and you really begin to ask yourself, what does it look like to get older? Oops, sorry about that. What does it look like to get older? Sorry, it's freezing here to me. And so I am layered up. I intended to wear this cute little dress. I have a sweater on. What can I say? So I hope the sound is okay. I tested it before and it seemed to be doing well. The only real issue is the lighting. Not much I can do about that. Okay. And my hair got wet today. So welcome. As I said, it's Dr. Sasheen. Every Thursday night, 10:30, barring some major catastrophe, I'll be here talking to you. Hopefully, sometimes I'll bring a guest on talking about what does it mean to live the next best chapter of your life? What are the things that are holding you back from embracing the next best chapter of your life? What are the things that you've always wanted to do? Sorry, we're wobbling, but that you have found yourself feeling as though it's too late. I can't do that. What will people think? What will people say? And it's really easy to give lip service and say, "Oh, feel the fear and do it anyway." Nobody actually tells you what that means though. Like how much fear should I feel before I do it anyway? And how much fear is the wrong kind of fear that's saying don't do it anyway? And what if I do it anyway and I lose all of my friends or I lose all of my family? And all so many other questions, right? That people say, especially people who are sometimes younger than us, say as if it's enough to say the word, feel the fear and do it anyway, without a roadmap on exactly, so what does that mean? What does it look like to feel that fear and then do the thing that you might be afraid of? Well, those are some of the things I'd like to talk to you about as we live in very interesting times and very stressful and anxiety producing times. And I want to create a conversation, not about what's going wrong, because there are enough podcasts and YouTube channels and you name Facebook pages, and there's enough of that. What I want to talk about is what gives you hope, what brings you peace, what stirs your soul, as my one of my favorite authors would say. But not just what stirs your soul, but what does it mean to get to live the next best chapter? So when I turned 40, I'm not 50 yet. So I'm in the decade of 40s. And that's all I'm going to tell you. But I had just given birth the year before to my son. And I had a lot of different ideas about 40 because I wasn't expecting to be a mom. But then I decided to have a child. And so my concept of my 40s changed dramatically. And once I began to lean in, I guess, to what it meant to be 40, I had my son at 39, to be a new mom entering her fourth decade on the planet. What does the next chapter look like when you have a young child? So I'm going to talk about some of my own journey to understanding that my next best chapter was rewritten with the birth of my son. And the things that I had thought that I would do when I hit 40s turned out to be things that I no longer wanted to do because I was in a different place and space. And you may find that you have kids and they're leaving. You're like me and you have a child who is not even in double digits yet. So, and you're in your 40s, or you have no kids and you're ready to think about what life's going to look like as you get into this chapter where, you know, m- um, medicine has advanced to such a degree that all of us here who are listening or watching could live another 40 years. Think about that. Think about the concept of unlocking a life that allows you to live another 40 years. It used to be no one wanted to live that long because the life was hard, the world was hard. But now we embrace it. We're like, yeah, bring it on. I want to keep living. I have stuff to do. But what is that stuff? What do you want to do? So, part of the reason I started this again, I really hope this sounds okay. Part of the reason that decided to start podcasting again, decided to start streaming again, is because I have a group on Facebook called Women Starting Over Life After 40. And if you're a woman over 40, that's one requirement. Actually, those are the only two requirements. You're a woman, woman presenting, or yeah, woman or woman presenting, or and consider yourself a woman, and you're over 40. Sorry, 39 is not gonna cut it. You gotta be over 40 to get in the club. But what does it look like in this space and time to be a woman over 40? There's this push in culture to make everything the new 20, 40 is the new 30. Sorry, this is just really wobbly. So if you watch this and you're like, this is too wobbly for me, just hang with me, okay? It's live. It's gonna be live. And sometimes things are gonna look crazy and mess up, but we're actually pretty clear. It's just that this is very wobbly and I can't get it to stabilize. Um, but what does that really look like? That push to have the 30s be the new 20s, and then it's 40s is the new 30s, and 50s is the new 40s. But what if this is just what 40 looks like now? It isn't the new anything. It has evolved into this version of 40s. And because of the advances of modern medicine and culture and society and civilization, we just have better quality of lives now. We have different cultural standards, uh, different parasocial norms now. And that allows us to live a different kind of 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and beyond, my sisters. And so if you are sitting out there going, but Dr. Sacheen, I'm 45, I'm 47. I don't know if I can start over. I don't know what it means to start over. I want to ask you some really interesting questions as we have conversations about life unlocked. So I wrote this book called The Anxiety Solution. Yes, it's a shameless plug. You can find the link for it down in the bio of this, the description of this podcast. I wrote this book called The Anxiety Solution, and it's got a terrible cover on it. I'm going to have to change that cover. Anyway, it's an ebook. It's a digital book. And I wrote it because I suffer from anxiety. And during the pandemic, it got way bad, way, way bad. And I've always suffered from imposter syndrome. I went to graduate school. I have multiple degrees. The doctor is not just a pseudonym. I have a PhD from the University of Missouri in Columbia and in communication. Thank you very much. And that experience was extremely difficult because I went back to school late. I've always been a late bloomer. I've always done things in my own time and in my own way when I was ready. And so I was in a cohort of all of these younger people, and they were vibrant. And I was in my 30s, but I was still one of the older people around. Um, in this PhD program of people who had never left school and were just in their early 20s getting their PhDs. And I felt really old sometimes, but I also felt life unlocking. I was bowled over by the experience of going back to school after having worked, get out in the world, lived places, done things. And I came back with this sense of, I'm just going to have a good time because my undergraduate years just weren't that fun. I worked all the time, stuff was always happening. Didn't have a great party scene. I mean, I wasn't really into it, but things were just harder. So I made the decision. And with my master's program, I just worked. I mean, I did my master's on the weekends and at night. So when I got decided to get my PhD, it was like, I'm going to enjoy the process and see how life unfolds for me. And gosh dang it, if it did not unfold in some amazing ways. From middle Missouri, I have flown far and wide and I have seen some incredible things and met some amazing people. And it has diminished my anxiety a lot. Pandemic brought it back, but that's for another day. It diminished my anxiety a lot, but it also really helped me understand what it is to live outside of fear. And one of the biggest fears we have is growing older, especially in a world that doesn't value getting older, which is why we keep trying to make every decade the new 20s. But I don't know about you, I don't want to be 20 again. There's nothing in my life that I can say that I would do better or be better at if I were 25, 26, 27, 28. Nothing. And so not even being a mom, like this is the decade for me to be a mom because I know some things and I've done some things and I've experienced some things. And so now I can parent in the way that I need to parent. Anyway, don't get me started on my son. I adore him. So understanding that my life was unlocking for me in some very profound ways as I was getting this doctorate, I just said, I'm going to go in whole hog, feet first, diving in off the deep end. I moved to a small college town, got a little apartment, made great friends, partied some. We'll talk about that some other time. Let's just say I do live my life the way that I like it. But I also read a ton of books and met some great people and had some freaking amazing conversations with people I never would have encountered if I'd never left the life that I had before. And this is kind of the point of this introductory podcast or broadcast is the transition from one decade to the next, from 30 to 40, is a chance to unlock something. And in fact, somewhere underneath here, which is probably why this thing is moving. Yes. I have a stack of books always around me. But one of the things about the transition between decades is that you get the opportunity to close the book on some things that you don't really want to have to deal with anymore and to open the chapter on some things and go, I think I kind of want to do that now. I think I kind of want to see if I'm that kind of person. And when I was getting my PhD in my third decade on the planet, when I chose to run away from home, as my father said, again, and go do some things. And I ended up in this small town. I mean, I had some experiences that let me know some things about myself. And when you start thinking about some things about yourself that you wish to unlock, that you want to uncover, how are you going to do it? How are you going to get there? What are the roads, the pathways, the toll booth, the tollways that you're gonna go down? What's the cost of the things that you want? What's the price that you're willing to pay to get where you want to go? And fear, I'm swinging back around to that, feel the fear thing. Fear is, and especially the fear of getting older, it's a toll booth. One that you don't actually have to drive through, but one that we're conditioned to drive through because we are told that, yeah, the grass is greener if you were on the other side of it. The grass would be so much better if you tried to be 20 again. No, it wouldn't. None of us want to be 20 again. Who are we kidding? Do you really want to have to go back and do that? Oh, no, thank you. Um, but there are avenues and pathways and byways of a whole different life as we transition out of our 30s into our 40s, into our 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. Now, I can't speak to being 50 because I'm not 50 yet, but I'm getting there. I sure am. And I'm looking at what are the new things I'm going to unlock in my fifth decade when that comes around. That I'm in my fourth decade, didn't get a chance to do, or chose not to do because I chose to be a mom instead. In my group, women starting over life after 40, I took a poll, and one of the things I asked was, "What brings your anxiety about starting over?" And the fear of getting older is real, that we'll be alone, um, that time will start to feel precious and fleeting and like quicksilver. We can't quite get a hold of it anymore. And I honor and respect that, and I don't think anyone should tell any of us that we shouldn't feel that way. But I also know that a lot of that is manufactured by the society that we live in. It's manufactured by the press and the media. It's manufactured by social media and advertising. It's manufactured by marketing and commercials. It's manufactured in the books and the shows that we watch. The glorification of youth above all else and to the detriment of everything else. The absolute erasure of sexiness and beauty as we age. Unless you fit a certain aesthetic, you cannot have those things. And so we fear getting older because we fear getting erased. Who wants to get erased? Well, here's what I want to say to you. The reason I'm starting Life Unlocked is because I don't believe in erasure. I think you need to live a lot louder and a lot more open and a lot more in your face in your fourth decade, fifth decade, sixth decade, and beyond. In my group, I like to drop videos of women who are doing their thing, who are making drastic changes into a chapter of life that they're just like, this is my time, my life. In fact, there is a woman who lives in a tiny home, and I'm gonna forget it. Her Facebook is um, Miss Bohemian Soul. I'll link to it either below. I think I have her Instagram and her Facebook, and she moved into this tiny home, and she talks about tiny home living. And in my group, I asked the question once, I was like, so do you want to downsize and become a tiny house liver, or do you want to upsize because you've always wanted the big house with 5 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms and 3 acres? And here's the thing, it runs the gamut. For some of us in our 40s, we want nothing more than to get rid of everything, put a hobo stick out in the wind, and backpack across Europe. For others, we want nothing more than to have a villa in Puerto Vallarta with a maid and a butler and lawn service. For others, we just want that house in the suburbs that we've wanted for so long. We just want our little slice of America. And for others, we want nothing to do with America. We want to move to another country and we want to live freely in Bali or Beijing or Brussels. And in the fourth decade, we should get a chance to explore those options. The fear of getting older is that we will slow down, that we won't be able to keep up, that people will think that we are old and that they'll want to leave us behind. But the reality is, it's 2022. The advent of modern medicine means that we can do a lot more things. Now we have to take care of ourselves, right? Like, come on. Might be time to start thinking about your health. But that's great, right? Like, that's what we want to think about because we want to be here. Hang on, y'all. Here we go. This light's driving me crazy. Okay, there we go. Um, moving. There we go. All of the wonderful things that we think we cannot do because we're in our 40s, we're in our 50s. I want you to think about doing them. And so each Thursday night, we're going to talk about what it means to unlock our potential. Nobody talks about 40-year-olds unlocking their potential. We talk about 20-year-olds, teens, tens, geniuses, the little people. I love them. I have one. He's fantastic. But nobody ever talks about unlocking your potential in your 40s. And I am here to tell you, you need to think about unlocking your potential in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s. And here's why: we are aging, but science is proving that we are getting better with age. It's scientifically proven that our brains aren't even fully developed until we're well into our 20s. Now, if they're not even really fully developed, no, they're not really. They're not fully developed until we are well into our 20s, then why on earth are we so surprised that in our 40s, we're all of a sudden waking up going, there's so many things I want to do, so many places I want to see, so much of life I want to unlock? Because our maturing brains now understand the beauty of life and all that it has to offer, all that it has to bring. Whereas in our 20s, all we could see was right in front of us because our brains weren't only functioning at the capacity that they were able to function. But now the folds and the grooves in our brains, they've got something in there. They're ready to explore. So I'm going to ask you, what is it that you're afraid to do, but you know you're going to do it? And how can we walk you there? How can we get you there? How can we map that path for you so that you can feel the fear and do it anyway? Because it's different when you say that to a 40-year-old than when you say it to a 20-year-old. It's different when you've got a mortgage or kids or a husband or wife, bills and expectations and obligations. Poussoir. Obviously, take care of what you feel like you need to take care of. But we're talking about you, ladies, because I have a group. Women starting over. Women starting over. Life after 40. Well, life after 40. We're talking about not being afraid of getting older, but embracing it. And not in the way that says, okay, well, I'm going to go dye my hair, which I am. By the time you see me again, I might have my hair red again, but that's beside the point. No, actually, that is the point. I love being a redhead. Absolutely love it. And as I'm getting older, the shade of red is becoming more fun. In fact, ladies, I might actually end up with pink hair. Just hear me out. I love hair color. I've been a redhead off and on my whole life. Not at the moment because I wanted to grow my hair out some. And it needed a break. But I really like the pink hair trend that I've been seeing. I don't think I can get the bright pink hair, but I kind of think I could get into the pink hair trend. So, or maybe even a deep purple. I'm not sure. So here's the thing. I thought I wanted to grow my hair out, hence why it's growing. I've had short hair for a while, but I'm starting to think short pink hair is the way to go. In our 40s, our next best chapter. If you want to be a silver fox dress, let those luscious golden gray locks go. If you want to have purple hair, for the love of God, have purple hair. Because what do we know at 40 that we are completely blind to in our 20s? Hair grows or it doesn't. It grows or it doesn't, depending on how our cycles have gone in our whole life, depending on our hormone levels, what we eat. Hair grows or it doesn't. In your 40s, you get to say, it'll grow or it won't. Either way, I'll either shave it and move on or find a style that works for me. But when we can take ownership and control of this thing right here, then it becomes easier to take control of other things. It becomes easier to say, oh, yeah, now that you mention it, I really hate living in the suburbs. And I would love to live in the city. Oh, I'd love to maybe live in Lisbon or Porto in a little flat. And I would love to shop every day in the market. Or I would just love to have a farm and spend my days rescuing stray dogs and feeding cattle. Because that's really what I've always wanted to do. The dreams that we start in our 40s are the ones that we will take with us into our 90s. And that's 50 years away, y'all, for some of us, for a lot of us. The dreams that we begin now, the second chapter, this is the beginning of the second book of our lives, right? And before someone makes a snide comment, because somebody always makes a comment, well, yeah, because we're all going to die. Well, we're going to die anyway. We're going to die anyway. But I don't know about you, but if I have 40, 30, we'll call it 30 more years on the planet, then me worrying about dying because I've chosen to live seems counterintuitive, don't you think? Very counterintuitive. So I'm gonna wrap this up. I told myself I'd keep the first night at 30 minutes because I figured it would just be me talking to me. But if you catch us on the replay, what is your 40 dream? What is it that you see yourself doing? When you think about the chapters of your life, or maybe this is an entirely new book, what's the title? Is it Life Unlocked? Is it Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway? Is it Explorer of Beautiful Places? Is it Newly Minted Travel Writer Takes on Brazil? Is it Cooking for One Life After Divorce? Is it Empty Nest Syndrome? Thank God those kids are gone. What is the chapter, excuse me, what is the title of this chapter of your life as you head into this new phase? And what are the subplots? This is the fun thing that we're going to talk about in Life Unlocked. Oh, by the way, I was talking about books. I have a book. Life Unlocked: 7 Revolutionary Lessons to Overcome Fear. We're going to talk about this book a little each week as well. Um, it's something I've read so many times, and it's a great book. It's just a great book. And there are a lot of tools in here that I use in my own life as I'm thinking about the next thing. See, there's lots of pages turned down. But I also, last year, finally, I know I'm behind the curve on something. I have a lot of books that I read. So sometimes I'm behind the curve. I also read this last year, Shonda Rhimes' Year of Yes. And if you are thinking that, first of all, you should pick up The Anxiety Solution because I think that's a great book. But I also think that if you think about being paralyzed and not certain if you can give yourself permission to step onto the fear of getting older, the fear of being left alone, the fear of whatever it is that's holding you in a certain spot. Shonda's journey to her year of yes is fascinating. It's also inspiring because it talks about the real issues of just being a woman entering different decades and the expectations that are placed upon you. Now, mind you, she's very successful. You know, Shondaland, Bridgerton, Grey's Anatomy, How to Get Away with Murder, Shondaland. But she's so human and a woman, a single mother who is dealing with and understand or dealt with and really tried to understand what it would mean to live a different chapter than the one she'd lived before. She didn't throw away everything, didn't throw it all out the window, but she made significant structural changes to her life that unlocked potentials and pathways that just never would have happened. And so just because we cross a threshold of a decade from 30 to 40 or 40 to 50 doesn't mean that we stop dreaming our way into the life that we want. We never stop dreaming our way into the life that we want and then taking actions that'll get us to that life that we want. Sometimes that means we need a year of no, but sometimes it means we might need a year of yes. So if you hung with me for this long, leave a comment. Tell me the title of this chapter of your life. Leave it here in YouTube. You can put it on Facebook. If you're listening to this in my Facebook group, Women Starting Over, leave it in the comments. Like, subscribe, share the video. Be great. So that you get notifications when I go live next week in the week and into infinity and beyond, hopefully. And that we can chat, we can talk, we can think about the best ways to make this next chapter the best one ever. Ever. So it's Dr. Sacheen, author of The Anxiety Solution and many other books, signing off for the night. Hope you get something valuable out of this broadcast, and I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. If you don't know that reference, you're not in your 40s. Good night, everyone.